Well, that was John Black, chemist. I think it's part 3, talking about how the Federal Reserve works. Uh, yeah, whoever controls the volume of money masters everything and controls the world, because the volume of money determines what the value of the money is. So all you have to do is change the volume of money that's in the money supply, and you can make the money be worthless, or you can make it be worth a lot. And that way you could buy property when it's worthless, and then flood the money with market with money again, and then your stuff that you bought for pennies is now worth a lot. The central bank is a private corporation that makes its own policies. It loans money to the U.S. at interest. This is the very same banking system we fought England for having. This is why we fought England for the Revolutionary War and became our own country. It's because no taxation through inflation, or no taxation through representation. Because that's what it is. When you have fiat money, you're taxed through inflation. And we fought the Revolutionary War so that we didn't have to do this fiat money crap, because it's crazy insane. Okay? And I wanted to, there was 3 federal banks, the Federal Reserve banks, that was made in the United States. The first one was made by Andrew Hamilton or something like that. But anyways, we got rid of it because, and what's funny is when it was created, James Adams, who's a relative of George Bush, okay, he was against the federal bank. He talked shit on Andrew Hamilton, or whatever his name was, saying how it's unconstitutional, how it's evil. He was basically being normal, right? But then, because it only had a 20-year expiration date, right? And after 20 years, they got rid of it, right? Thank God. But 4 years later, right? 4 years later, wait. Yeah, 4 years later, they made the second Federal Reserve Bank. Guess who made that one? James Madison, the guy who's related to George Bush. And remember, we already said that Andrew Wilson is who's made the third bank in 1913. He was related to George Bush. So anyways, and guess what they did? Because 1816 is when they made the second bank, right? And we were just getting out of the 1812 war, so we had built up a lot of debt, right? We make this Federal Reserve thing. Then we contract the money supply. And on top of that, we bought the Louisiana Purchase in 1818, right? So we were just screwing ourselves. So anyways, there was the Panic of 1819. 3 years after they started the first Federal Reserve Bank, they did the same trick. They contracted all the money, right? And then they bought this land, which took money out of the system, right? Put debt into the system. And they crashed the society. They basically did what I just said they did with the third central bank. They did it with the second Federal Reserve Bank also. And it only took them 3 years. Boom. It's like, how many times do they... I could literally be here for an hour telling you each time that they did this. Because every time there's a recession or a depression, it's them doing this same trick. And it's in the history books. And then I wanted to bring up something else is, in 1836, Andrew Jackson finally got rid of the second bank, the Federal Reserve Bank, right? And at that time, as soon as he did it, there was like a 7-year recession, or like a mini depression. And everyone blamed it on the bank because he shut down the evil bank. But that isn't true. What really happened was the King of England, his reserves in his bank, where he has fiat money, was going low. So he raised interest rates and he tried to contract the money supply by calling in loans and calling in whatever. So which we had loans to them. They wanted their money, you know what I mean? So they're taking money out of the thing. Then there was a long, couple-year thing where our crops were just, I guess it was from the weather, but it didn't happen in England. Just in the United States, our crops were like just shit. We didn't have any crops. We were starving because of that, and there were like 5 other things like that were happening at the same time. You know what I mean? But they contributed a lot of idiots because it's just brainwashing, man. The elites want us to think that a central bank stabilizes the economy. It does not. It does the opposite. It gives them control to stabilize it, whether they, and they never want to keep it stable, okay? And so it was called the Panic of 1836 when they closed down the second bank. But like I said, if you look into it, it wasn't the bank's fault. I'm sure it contributed slightly, but there were bigger factors going on at that time. That is why we had the panic or the recession or whatever, 1836. Then, of course, we already went over the bank that came in 1913. That's what we were just talking about now. And I think, let's see how much time we have here. But I want you to just notice, how many people are related to this guy Bush that, 2 of the 3 banks, 2 of the 3 Federal Reserve banks that we've had in this world, 2 of them, 2/3, were made by presidents who were related to George Bush. Because that's the one, the Federal Reserve Bank, that's the most evilest thing that you could do to a country. Most evilest. Like, that's worse than Hitler. It's like take Hitler, Mussolini, and all them bad people, put them together. They are not evil as a central bank. They're not even close. Not even. Those are good, upstanding people, Hitler and them, compared to the central bank. So I think we're going to go on to the next thing, which is going to be the World Bank, okay? I'm going to tell you how the World Bank works, just like I told you how the fiat, the Federal Reserve Bank works. And then I'm probably going to have a couple videos telling how they abuse their power, you know what I mean? Well, actually, I'll get straight into that. But you can see what these elites are doing, right? They buy up the oil fields, they buy up they make the munitions and the war stuff. They start the war, right? Then the country has to borrow a bunch of money to fund this war, so they get money, interest off of that, right? Then when the war is over, they own all the global construction companies that go in and rebuild the country. That's one trick. The other trick is the obvious one where it's a perpetual debt-making machine, the Federal Reserve, right? And then the third way is by crashing the economy, by contracting the money supply and buying everything up, and then you throw the money back into the money supply, and everything you bought for pennies is now worth a whole bunch of money. So it's 3 ways that the Federal Reserve Bank screws us over, and nobody seems to care, even though it's happened over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. Like, you can't learn. Like, I brought this up for my entire life. Nobody cares, though. They want to vote in the guy who, this is why I said Fox News, they're jerks too. They're owned by the same people that own CNN. Their job is to be the other side. So they agitate us, divide us. But Oh, jeez. You know, you ever hear, I could say 100 things why I think this, why they're jerkwads. But I forget what I was going to say. See what time. But anyways, I only have 4 more minutes. See if I can babble some more. But yeah, this is just too crazy. Well, I don't know. I can't think anything else I could say about the fiat money. I'm just repeating myself over and over again. But people they've been brainwashed. Once they got it into the schools that this central bank stabilizes stuff, that we're done then, because now society believes to tell someone, no, the fractional reserve banking system is stupid and it's like a loan shark. They look at you like you're insane. They look at you like you're crazy, man. But it's really evil, man. And we're going to, and then once I get past the World Bank, I can start telling you about their 100-year plan, okay? Because this is a George Soros plan. It makes these plans that they have, that they really have just 3 or 4 tricks that they just keep doing over and over and over again. You know what I mean? It's not like they're Einstein's about it. George Soros, he's an Einstein, okay? He came along, right? Came out of Nazi Germany. What's funny is he's a Jew. The Jew that lived under the Nazi regime is actually the man who's bringing back Nazi, because that's what this is. It's corporate communism, it's Nazism, and it's fascism. It's just all rolled up into one. They took the best things from each one, the best things for them, and that's what it is. So yeah, he brought back, he's bringing back Nazism. And I now show you how this is not. And when I say Nazism, I don't mean like Hitler Nazism. I mean the guy who was above Hitler, because there was people above Hitler, right? Hitler was nobody, right? Those people aren't Nazis. They're just fascists. They just want to control everything. You know what I mean? And all in retrospect, all fascism, whether it's dictator or totalitarian or communism or Nazism, they all lead to the same thing. On paper they're different, but in real life they're actually the same thing. You got people at the top taking all your rights away, and they got all the money, and everyone's in the bottom needs to shut up and stand in line and don't cause any trouble, and you have no rights and you have no money. It's all, whether you're talking about communism or Nazi, it's always the same. It's always the same setup, man. I don't know why people try to differentiate these things. I mean, yes, on paper, but they always morph into the same thing. You know what I mean? Communism will morph into it. Nazism will morph into it. Totalitarianism, dictatorship, it all morphs into the same thing. So to try to differentiate, sometimes I call it Nazism, sometimes I call it communism. If I say the wrong thing to somebody, they act like, oh no, it's not Nazism, it's the same damn thing, man. It's the same damn thing. No, I still got, I'm ending it.